against COVID-19 pandemic that has been ravaging in the country. More with this in some minutes to come. Cameroon has joined the international community to commemorate the International Girls in ICT Day, celebrated this day under the theme, Accelerating Digital Transformation in Challenging Times. This day is set aside to reiterate on the need and importance to empower the girl child through information and communication technology. Cameroon has joined the international community this 11th edition of the International Widows Day this June 23rd, 2021. The ceremony was chaired by the Minister of Women, Empowerment and the Family, Marie-Thérèse Abena Ondwa, with focus on how to stop ill treatment perpetrated on women in Cameroon and the world at large. We have details with that in the minutes to come. The Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manawuda Malachi, has attended a special plenary meeting this day to discuss on health and COVID-19 situation in the country. He attended this meeting at the Yaoundé Conference Center, chaired by the House Speaker, Kavaye Yegejibril. We have more of this report with Bertrand Tita.
During the special plenary session on universal health coverage and vaccination against the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic at the conference center, the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manawuda Malachi, indicated that the vaccination rate against COVID-19 is still very slow. He stated that the overall objective for the introduction of the vaccine is to target at least 80% of vulnerable population to be vaccinated before December 2021.
Justify their priority in the significant improvement of the health of the Cameroonian populations that will result from its implementation. Indeed, the universal health coverage consists to ensuring that the entire population has access to preventive, curative, palliative rehabilitation and health promotion services they need, and that these services are of sufficient quality to be effective without their cost causing financial difficulties for users.
For the universal health coverage plan in the country, the public health boss, Dr. Manawuda Malachi, indicated that the coverage is aimed at ensuring everyone has equity in access to health services and affordability of health care to all Cameroonians.
Political and moral imperative to implement universal health coverage is advancing globally and in Africa, where it's increasingly recognized as promoting equity, respect for fundamental rights, improved quality of health care and services and human security. The universal health coverage is technically supported by several legal instruments.
The special plenary sitting at the National Assembly on health care and vaccination against the COVID-19 was chaired by the Vice President, Théophile Bauru.
We now have this press release where the Minister of State Property, Surveys and Land Tenure is pleased to inform the national and international public opinion that under the distinguished patronage of His Excellency President, the foundation stone for the construction project of leisure park called Hotel du Lac and a conference center on the state land located at Mingwa, Yaoundé, will take place on Thursday, June 24, 2021. This event is placed under the high patronage of the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. John Gute, and personal representatives of the Head of State. The President is aimed at providing our country with hotel infrastructures that meet international standards in these sectors. We will be bringing you more of developments in this in our subsequent newscasts. We now move over to something else where some 4 offices and conference hall of the Senior Divisional Officer of Koseri went on flame. This occurred while the Senior Divisional Officer was attending a security meeting with the Governor of Jamina. Stephen Elangwe tells us more in the following report.
We are in the Logonan Shari Division, far north region of Cameroon, where the office of the senior divisional officer has been razed by fire. The fire of unknown source took over the building, burnt down 4 offices and part of the conference room at the same hour when the SDO Jean Lazare Ndongo was chairing a meeting that brought together both Cameroonians and Chadians. The meeting in question was a security meeting between Jean Lazare Ndongo and the governor of N'Djamena from neighboring Chad on matters relating to the reopening of the Ngeli Bridge. Reports hold that the blaze started in the SDO's office before spreading to the big conference hall of the building. The intervention of the Army Rescue Unit helped stop the fire, but this was only possible after endless 3 hours of struggle. The divisional authority has stated that a probe into the cause of the fire has been opened, while it was underscored that much material loss has been incurred amidst no loss of human life.
Cameroonians have joined the international community to commemorate the 11th edition of the Widows' Day, celebrated this June 23, 2021. The ceremony was shared this date in Yaoundé by the Minister of Women Empowerment and the Family, Marie-Thérèse Abena-Ondoa. She says these ill treatments meted on these widows against human rights, and this can also contribute to slowing development in the country. Ruth Fonyong was present and now reports.
The International Widows' Day, established during the 66th session of the United Nations General Assembly by Resolution 65/189 of December 21, 2010, is an opportunity to mobilize communities and all stakeholders to defend the rights of widows. Many widows go through torment in total isolation, rejected by their families and the community, unable to break the silence for fear of reprisal for their lives or those of their orphaned children.
In Cameroon, the situation is not better. Many widows still crush tears at the human rights violation they suffer in the hands of in-laws, their own families, or society in general. These include, but are not limited to, the following: expulsion of widows from the marital home, destruction or retention of administrative documents to prevent the widow from receiving her surviving spouse's pension, refusal of the in-law to give the minutes of the family council to the widow.
It should be noted that every person has the right to life, to physical and moral integrity, and to human treatment in all circumstances. A preamble of our Constitution goes on to state that the nation shall protect and promote the family, which is the natural foundation of our human society.
Cameroon has ratified almost all the legal instruments protecting women's rights in general, and particularly the rights of the widows. The widow has a right to a fair share in the inheritance of her spouse's property. The widow has a right, whatever the matrimonial regime, to continue to live in the marital home in the event of remarriage. She retains this right if the home belongs to her or has been devolved to her by inheritance. At the national level, there is an institutional and legal framework for the protection of women's rights in general and that of the widows in particular.
It is in this synergy that the widowed woman will be able to unleash all her potential, which is indispensable for the construction of our emerging Cameroon by 2035, which the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, is strongly longing for.
We will now have an excerpt from the Minister of Women Empowerment and the Family, Marie-Thérèse Abena-Ondoa, who franks on the violence and abuses that these widows undergo in Cameroon and the world at large. She, however, says the ministry is ready to give their support in whatever way. Ruth Fonyong compiled this essay for us. Let's listen to the minister.
Despite the existence of this institutional and legal framework, which could have guaranteed better protection of the rights of widows, it is regrettable to note that this social category of our society continues to suffer the torments of violence and ill treatment by families, in-laws, and communities. The commemoration of this 11th edition of the International Widows Day allows us to pause and question our habits and customs whose practice causes so much human suffering. The Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, for its part, will continue its action in favor of the widow. This includes raising the widows' awareness on their rights, building the capacity of widows to set up income-generating activities, associations, and network of associations, providing financial and material support to widows and orphans, and of course, this will be proportional to our budget. Legal assistance to widows, psychological support, sensitization of traditional, religious, and community leaders on the important role they have to play, for example, the process of humanizing widowhood rights and the protection of the widow in general. In effect, in order to put an end to the violence suffered by widows and to improve their living conditions, it is essential that an active synergy be put in place at the service of human dignity. This dignity requires that women, whatever their status, be respected as full human beings with fundamental rights that must be protected. It is only in this active synergy that the widowed woman will be able to unleash all her potential, which is indispensable for the construction of an emergent Cameroon by 2035, which is the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, is strongly longing for.
And now we move to something else, where the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Dangote, has granted audience to the African Union Ambassador of African Medicine at the Star Building. Their discussion centered on how Cameroon is going to foster the deals in the institution. We have more of this report with Bertrand Tita.
The African Medicine Agency was set up by African Union heads of states and heads of government in 2019 to regulate medical products and to improve access to quality, safe and efficacious drugs in the continent. 15 member states in Africa are required to ratify the treaty in order for the African Medicine Agency to take off officially. The African Union ambassador's visit for the African Medicine Agency, Michel Sidibe, to the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dangote, was initially to solicit Cameroon to ratify the treaty setting up the African Medicine Agency.
We extend gratitude to Cameroon for taking the first step in the ratification process at the level of the Assembly, especially as Cameroon will have to submit a ratification document at the African Union too.
The ambassador, after his audience at the Star Building, indicated that the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph Dangote, was very comprehensive in buying the idea for Cameroon to ratify the treaty and be amongst the first 15 countries. He added that today, medicine market stands at $1,400 billion and Africa is less than just 1.3 billion. While recalling that the National Assembly has already adopted the bill authorizing the President of the Republic to sign a treaty establishing African Medicine Agency, Prime Minister Joseph Dangote reassured the African Union envoy of Cameroon's commitment to all initiatives meant to improve lives of the population of Cameroon.
You're welcome back. Cameroon has also joined the international community to commemorate the International Girls' Day in ICT. This day has been set aside to see how to empower these girls in information and communication technology. Ruth Fonyon has more in the following report.
Accelerating digital transformation in challenging times is the theme for the 10th edition of the International Girls in ICT Day, which was established by the International Telecommunications Union in October 2010. This day is celebrated in order to encourage young girls get interested in scientific subjects and mathematics.
I would like to say that the International Union of Telecommunications, ITU, is developing the strategies to permit young girls to be interested in the domain of ICT. Interesting particularly in the different studies, be them scientific, be them engineering, the domain of mathematics, sciences in general. The ITU is encouraging that, and the government of Cameroon is helping also to attain these goals by inviting and encouraging all the initiatives that can permit the young girls to express themselves in the domain of ICTs.
For this reason, the ITU has gotten some girls of secondary schools in the creation of mobile apps to aid them and Cameroon at large to easily carry out their activities. Some of the projects created are the blood donating application, food delivery app, and a vaccination app.
The project I presented on was a project on vaccine, that is to keep the citizens updated with the vaccine preventable diseases. This is important because vaccination, first they usually say prevention is better than cure. So when we prevent something, it's better than curing it. It's better than curing the thing. So a vaccine is something that I believe each and every citizen will have to take in order to limit the number, because equally we know that there are some people whose immune system are very weak, and as of that they cannot really take vaccine.
This day is celebrated this year within the context where the COVID-19 pandemic not only highlights on the one hand the essential role of ICTs for the continuous functioning of administrations, but also the surprising digital inequalities which exist between countries, thereby calling for the urgency to accelerate digital transformation and attainment of the goals and targets of the Connect 2030 program, so that no one is left on the sidelines of the technological evolution in the domain of ICT.
4, 3, 2.
We now move over to the littoral region, that is Douala, where some motorbike riders have attended a workshop chaired by the mayor of the Douala City Council. These bike riders have been drilled on how to be more professional and avoid reckless driving that has led to the loss of so many lives in that part of the region. Let's move over to Douala in the following report. A consultation meeting has been held between bike riders and authorities immediately concerned in the motorbike transport sector and civil society representatives. This took place at the Aqua Conference Hall this June in the littoral region of the country. Objective of this workshop is to discuss on measures to execute projects in a bid to maintain cleanliness and order in the community as additional steps to fight urban disorder and security amongst bike riders. To make this a reality, the Douala City Council has stepped up efforts towards this by providing a parking site exclusively for bike riders. According to the mayor of the Douala City Council, Dr. Mbassa Dean, Rond-Point Daido is the best site reserved for bike riders and taximen to be on standby and to receive customers that need under tight security during the day and night. As efforts to secure the bike riders, they have been reminded of the necessity of getting themselves identified through numeric and visual registrations as examples of promoters of discipline. This will also help other bike riders who are reluctant to do so without any fear in a bid to make the motorbike sector more professional and safe. We remain in the littoral region where the Douala City Mayor and the Senior Divisional Officer have launched war against anarchical occupation of pavements and sidewalk in the nation's economic capital. They have begun sensitization in Daido and Dokoti. Our reporter Bertrand Tita tells us more in the following reports.
Most traffic congestions in the nation's economic capital, Douala, is caused by urban disorder. The epidemic area is mostly roadside markets where hawkers have occupied the pavement side work. After several calls and campaign for these hawkers to evacuate the place fell on deaf ears. Elements of the municipal police of the Douala City Council descended on the areas and destroyed all stores located on the pavement side works. Behold, when the joint Douala City Council and the senior divisional officer for Wuri went down for an inspection tour on Tuesday, June 22, the hawkers were all backed and business continued as usual. Some even spoke to the municipal and administrative authorities that they will return when they will get tired. The senior divisional officer for Wuri, in a polite but stern manner, told them that the side work is not a marketplace and it's either they live for peace to rent or they face the law. A businessman is a businessman and he has to sell in a store. We think it's time for them to liberate this road path they always occupy. They have to liberate these roadsides and sell in the store for Douala to become a town like any other town in the country. Circulation at Wrong Point Daido is complicated and difficult due to the presence of taxi and motorbikers that are stationed in every inch of an available space. The sensitization is being accompanied by a parking lot where passengers can book and drop from a taxi or motorbike. The city mayor of Douala took the senior divisional officer to the west wing of Wrong Point Daido, where they cautioned motor taxi riders that defaulters caught picking or dropping passengers on the road will face the consequences. Nevertheless, it should never be forgotten that defaulters can see their properties seized with a fine from 10,000 CFA francs to 500,000 CFA francs, depending on the activities causing the disorder.
If you are just joining us, you're watching the English Prime News of Akamdis Television in Yaoundé, the Cameroon political capital. We move over to something very interesting. Manicure and pedicure have always been believed to be a woman's profession. But nowadays, we've discovered that most men have taken interest in this and they have won the confidence of most of their female customers. Our reporter, Geraldine Nassé, visited the Mokolo market here in Yaoundé, caught up with those men and compiled this report for us.
The curation and care of a client's hands and feet, popularly known as manicure and pedicure, is a trade that has largely occupied the market in recent times by men who are being appreciated in the domain. This trade includes skin care, nail care, and artificial nail enhancement that can be customized to a variety of preference. These men have become popular and efficient in the trade and are being admired by women who come for hands and feet treatment.
At the beginning, we tried seeing how to get some income, and we saw that we can get this by training ourselves into something that has to do with women. We know that when you work in woman's domain, you excel, and that's what attracted me to do this.
Though most of them started the trade as a means to earn a living, they have become acquainted to the job and have made it part of them. According to most of them, they got into the trade because they noticed that any activity that concerns women sells quickly in market. However, these men feel very comfortable working on women, most especially during working sessions whereby they interact with the women, and in the course they get to share their points of views concerning the struggles of life.
I am specialized in manicure, pedicure, makeup, piercing, and tattoos. I also do eye lenses. It is not too much for me because there are things which we don't take a lot of time to do. You can do all of what I have just mentioned on one person.
Nevertheless, men of this trade say working in a domain that concerns women does not necessarily mean they are homosexual, as most people assume.
We now go over to our cover shot where the Nigerian billionaire business magnate, the wealthiest person in Africa with an estimate of $11.1 billion US, what Aliko Dangote was granted audience this afternoon in the Unity Palace by His Excellency President Paul Biya. Both the president and the business guru are delighted to discuss on ways to foster more investments and business opportunities. More of this will be yours in our subsequent newscast. And now Congo and China have agreed to restructure their Congolese debt. The country is owing a lot of debt to the China country. The country is facing a lot of economic crisis due to the decrease in the prices of fuel. We now have coronavirus, and the coronavirus pandemic has also greatly affected this country in one way or the other. Let's listen to this report presented by Geraldine Nasi.
China has once again come to the rescue of the Republic of Congo, with President Xi Jinping agreeing to restructure the Central African countries $2.4 billion worth of loans amid a debt crisis. In a call with President Xi Jinping on Monday, the president of Congo, Denis Sassou Nguesso, asked China to restructure the loans. The Central African nation's debt had risen to about 110% of gross domestic product, a level deemed unsustainable by the International Monetary Fund. This restructuring is to allow the country to have a few more resources to deal with its own internal needs, such as dealing with the fall in price of oil and the fight against coronavirus. The debt was an obstacle to the conclusion and the continuation of relations with the International Monetary Fund within the framework of the extended facility. But with the help of China, Congo will now be able to lift the obstacle to good relations with the International Monetary Fund.
It is with that report that we draw the curtains of our 6 p.m. English Prime News over Camdis Television. Here are the headlines. The Minister of Public Health, Dr. Malouda Malachi, has held a special plenary to examine health and vaccination against COVID-19 pandemic that has been ravaging lives in the country. Cameroon has joined the international community to celebrate the International Girls in ICT Day, celebrated this day under the theme, Accelerating Digital Transformation in Challenging Times. This day is set aside to reiterate on the need and importance to empower the girl child through information and communication technology. Cameroon has joined the world to commemorate the 11th edition of the International Widows' Day this June 23, 2021. The ceremony was chaired by the Minister of Women Empowerment and the Family, Marie-Thérèse Abena Ondoa, with focus on how to stop ill treatment perpetrated on women and their children. Thank you very much. Do not go away. At exactly 8 p.m., Claude Mayo will be coming with you with news in the French language. Stay in the company of our interesting programs. Have a blessed evening.